Hey, Bruce Reba here, author of Freedom's Quest on Amazon and Woodpecker on Kindle Vella. Hey, just a few words about my book, Freedom's Quest. Basically, what kicked me off on that writing project. And a few years ago, I was reading about Hernando de Soto, and I was reading the first-hand events by a gentleman by the name of Elvis. Elvis was a son of a wealthy Spaniard and an Inca Native American noble woman. And he was on the expedition all the way from Cuba to Tampa into the Midwest, and then finally into Mexico City. And growing up, the expedition of Hernando de Soto was kind of a romantic adventure. But as I read the chronicles of Elvis, I realized that it was evil. It was one of the more evil things I've ever read in my life, actually. So Hernando de Soto brought with him into the Tampa area 500 sets of chains, with the sole purpose of chaining up every Florida Indian he could find to carry his baggage. And he had, numbers vary, but he had between 700 and 1,000 soldiers and cavaliers, scouts, and then maybe another 200 civilians to help along with the expedition, and then 500 slaves. Well, that's a logistic nightmare. It's an army striking out into the primitive United States, southeast United States. So I was reading Elvis's story, and I came across a segment where Elvis records they're walking through a swamp, the 500 enslaved Indians, and it might have been the Okefenokee, South Georgia. But they're walking through the swamp, and the Indians all of a sudden take their chains. They're chained up, and they stir the water up, muddy the water until the fish come up, and the Indians grab them and eat the fish right there as they grab them. And it was kind of ironic. As a kid, I would do the same thing for fun, but I wouldn't eat the fish. But just to see what came up, I would experiment fishing. But I thought about that story for almost 2 weeks. Going, why were the Indians doing that? And then one day it hit me. De Soto wasn't feeding these people. It was just evil. He was because he couldn't feed 1,500 people without a modern logistics setup. So basically he was working these Indians to death, and then at the next village he would replenish his baggage carriers, and then he would demand people to be chained up from each village he showed up to. So after reading that, it kind of blew me away how evil that was. But so that really prompted me to start Freedom's Quest, and the series ends up in the Second Seminole War. But the book number 1, Freedom's Quest, is all about De Soto and then one of his conquistadors being raised by some of the local Indians here at Cape Canaveral, Merritt Island in central Florida. If you want to read some Florida history, check out my book on Amazon, Freedom's Quest. Hey, thank you. Bruce Reba out.